Part 93. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 943. The Judgment Angels have noticed our actions, and the number of Judgment Angels stationed in my world has increased. Moreover, they are still investigating us secretly. Several chess pieces in my hand have disappeared silently. If my prediction is correct, they should have fallen into the hands of the Judgment Angel. Corenthal was sitting in the main seat of the conference hall of his manor, with a projected circular conference table and 8 seats in front of him. There was a person whose face could not be seen clearly sitting on every seat, but everyone present knew very well that those who could sit here were the archons of the righteous world. They were a small alliance formed spontaneously, and Corenthal only knew one of the consuls, because that was his guide. The situation is the same here. It seems that the Archangel of Judgment is not easy to fool, and he has begun to doubt us. Corenthal naturally discovered the angel who was monitoring him, but at this point, there was no turning back. If things couldn't be done, he could only try his best to remove himself. I didn't expect that Einboken would be defeated so quickly. It simply didn't complete the work of attracting attention, which is why we were so passive. A consul who couldn't see his face spoke dissatisfiedly, especially because he was worried about the rebels' lightspeed retreat. He was just a small character who couldn't stand on the stage. It was normal for him to run away when he was in danger. It's a pity that we have supported him all these years. Another consul intervened in the discussion. His attitude was quite calm, but he could hear the distress in his tone. The reason why this is so is because the world of justice has extremely strict monitoring of military supplies. Even if they are consuls, they can only dig into so-so's little bits to accumulate wealth. In order for Einboken to cause chaos in the Edge world, they used a lot of accumulated weapons to make it happen. Now that the previous plan has failed, do we need to make a new plan now? After all, there is no longer any bait that can attract the attention of the Judgment Angel. If the Judgment Archangel decides to investigate the matter personally, we cannot keep it a secret forever. The Archon was very fearful in his words, because those present often came into contact with the Judgment Angel and knew that the Judgment Angel had some means of reading a person's information. It's okay for ordinary Judgment Angels to say that this ability to read information is only superficial, but according to some rumors, both the goddess and the Judgment Archangel Changran can read a person's past information. If they reveal their true nature and ignite the Archangel who rules over the Angel of Judgment, everything they have done will be exposed. At that time, all their strength and long life will be nothing but clouds, and their status as consuls cannot give them any sense of security. Seeing that all the consuls present expressed their opinions, a consul who had been sitting in the corner spoke now. Einboken contacted me not long ago. He wants more battleships and weapons that can fight against the Angels of Judgment, the Elite Legion. Is he joking? The world of justice does not have weapons that can fight against angels. If you want to kill the Angel of Judgment, you can only use your life to fill it. As for the Elite Legion, didn't we support them with a batch of blast guns before? That's a weapon installed by the elite army. Don't tell me it's useless. One of the consuls spoke up, his tone extremely dissatisfied. Everyone, Einboken has no place to stand, and the rebels under his command alone cannot conquer a world. He is asking us for things now because he wants to get some benefits before running away. A slightly stooped Archon said in a hoarse voice. In that case, let's cut off the connection with Einboken. One of the consuls proposed but was approved by several consuls present. In this case, stop aid to Einboken, cancel plans to incite public opinion, and deal with all possible hidden dangers. Just as the consuls were confirming the proposal, a female voice suddenly interrupted, surprising everyone. Don't you think it's a pity to stop the plan that you have been preparing for so long? Facing this female voice that suddenly interrupted their meeting, the expressions of all the consuls present changed drastically. Because this is an extremely private communication line, it deliberately avoids the Sky Sword system that governs the entire world of justice. Now being invaded by an unknown entity, wouldn't it mean that all their plans have been exposed to the other party's eyes? Corenthal was startled, but immediately forced himself to calm down and spoke out. My friend, I don't know what your purpose is for suddenly invading our communication lines. If it's convenient, please show up. Can't you even hear my voice? Well, I'll show up just like you said. As soon as he finished speaking, a space in the conference hall where Corenthal was sitting suddenly became rippled, and the projections of all the consuls present looked there. A foot wearing high-top metal combat boots was the first to step out, followed by layers of armor, a breastplate dotted with gorgeous patterns, and a face that had been imprinted deep in the heart of the Archon present since he was a child. Suddenly the atmosphere in the conference hall became extremely depressing, as if an invisible hand was holding Corenthal's heart. The same was true for the other Archons present who appeared in the form of projections, but after all, they were not facing Binghua directly like Corenthal, so their condition was not that bad. However, the dimming and disappearing projections one by one all indicate that these Archons have unprecedented awe and fear in their hearts. Corenthal's brain was already shutting down at this moment. He never thought that his actions would attract Binghua, the goddess of the world of justice. After all, the other party has not shown his face for decades or hundreds of years, and basically does not interfere in the affairs of the just world. His true identity will only be revealed on issues like the Great Expedition that will affect the entire just world. Binghua stepped towards Corenthal, who was sitting in the only main seat in the hall. When he saw the other person standing there in a daze, he raised his hand and waved it gently. You are not qualified to sit in this position. The next second, Corenthal, who was sitting there, seemed to have his collar twisted up by a big hand and thrown out, landing on the ground behind Binghua. Before Corenthal could get up, two of the judgment angels who followed Binghua held Corenthal down. Binghua came to the luxurious main seat where Corenthal was sitting before, turned around and sat down, folded his legs and put his hands on the armrests on both sides. In an instant, this small conference hall gave all the judgment angels present the feeling of being among the divine thrones. Now it's time for us to talk about your problems, Corenthal. Binghua's voice reached Corenthal's ears, and his body suddenly softened. He knew that he was finished. Not only himself, but none of the consuls who were not here could escape. Goddess, just ask, I will answer you as long as I know. Corenthal said dejectedly. Binghua raised his hand slightly to signal to let him go. Seeing this, the angel holding Corenthal loosened his hand and let him stand up again. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 944. Tell me why you want to incite public opinion and force the military to open up enhanced technology. And your plans after you achieve your goals. Binghua asked casually. In fact, she could also know these questions by reading Corenthal's thoughts at the moment. But thoughts are sometimes the dirtiest things in the world. Few angels would choose to do this unless necessary, including Binghua himself. It's very simple, goddess. We are the governors of the world of justice, and we also want to have a long lifespan and powerful power like the eternal Queen Shi. There are also those consuls in the original world. The king can have the right to build his own army and command. Why do the consuls in our world who directly govern the world have to be controlled by the military? You gave all your love to the original world and didn't give any of it to us. Corenthal spoke out what he was thinking without any scruples, and his words were full of dissatisfaction. So you want to create conflict and force the world of God to make a decision, and you even do not hesitate to support the rebel and Boken. What you are asking for this time is to transform technology. Next time, will you establish military power? After that, will you want your world to be autonomous and finally break away from the world of justice? Binghua's voice became louder and louder, and the anger contained in it was rapidly building up. You greedy guys can never satisfy the greed in your hearts. Life and power now, power and ambition later, and you will not be satisfied until you have it all in the palm of your hand. But have you ever known that in the war with chaos and the eternal ascender, there are many warriors like you who do not have superhuman physiques or long lives? But they still sacrifice their lives for the continuation of a just world. They can get the opportunity of second-generation transformation and third-generation transformation, which they have fought for with their own lives. They are the rewards after countless walks with death. What right do you have to be jealous, and what right do you have to share their rewards and glory? Binghua stood up from the main seat, and Corental below did not dare to look directly into the goddess's eyes, because he knew very well in his heart that any dissatisfaction and dissatisfaction were all in vain. Ultimately, all this stems from his greed, jealousy, and envy for those warriors in the world of justice who can physically travel the sea of stars and live almost eternal life. For this reason, he did not hesitate to betray his beliefs, the force field, and even the goddess. Seeing Corental lowering his head and saying nothing, Binghua waved his hand at the judgment angel in disgust. Take him down so that he won't be an eyesore. When Hyuka broke into the manor of Corental in the Talda world, the other archons attending the meeting did not escape their own fate of being arrested because of the distance. Under the tracking of Tianjian, their identities were quickly locked, and then orders from the military department of the Divine Throne world were issued to the elite legions stationed in their respective worlds. Facing the order from the Ministry of Military Affairs, the elite legion immediately assembled the elite squads within the battle group, boarded a small assault ship, and passed through the world's space-time shield system controlled by the Defense Force. The reason why it was so easy to enter the inside of the world was that the Defense Force also received direct orders from the Ministry of Military Affairs. In fact, after discovering that something was wrong, the consuls, who were worried that their identities would be discovered by the goddess, immediately began to gather their cronies and plan to escape from the world where they were. But before they were ready, an orbital airdrop capsule collapsed the roof of their residence and entered their manor. Then the airtight door of the empty warehouse opened with a bang, and several elite legion soldiers wearing demigod series power armor and holding heavy blaster guns stepped out from inside. We are ordered by the God's throne world to arrest Archon Model. Anyone who blocks his path will be shot to death. A dull voice came from behind the thick face armor of the elite legionnaires, whose size was comparable to that of a small giant, making the Archon's guards feel unprecedented fear. What are you afraid of? There are only 5 of them. Don't forget your kindness to us. One of the team captains in the escort had the courage to shout over the communication. The next moment, the low gunfire of the electromagnetic rifle rang out, and the nail-shaped bullets bounced off the armor of the elite legionnaires, leaving only a shallow scratch. Seeing the resistance of these mortals, the elite legion's team on the arrest mission did not tolerate these people. The next moment, deafening gunshots echoed in the manor, and bright gun flames were ejected from the muzzle of the violent energy gun, from which ion-penetrating bullets as thick as a baby's forearm were fired. The Archon guards who fired had their heads blown off one by one, and their headless bodies fell backwards. For those who were hit by ion-penetrating bullets, most of their bodies were shattered by the huge kinetic energy, leaving a hole the size of a human head in the wall behind them. Soon the dozens of guards carefully selected by the consuls in the manor were transformed into the dead souls of this elite legion team. The process was easy, smooth, and neat. After clearing away all the resisting guards, 5 elite legionnaires came to a tightly closed metal security door. The team leader gestured to his team members. One team member took a step forward, pulled out his fan Shenjian, and started energy cutting. The next moment, the sword body quickly glowed with a dazzling red light, and the terrifying high temperature heated up the air around the sword body. Burning and slightly twisted. The soldier slashed the fan Shenjian towards the edge of the safety door, then pushed the safety door open with his shoulder and rolled inwards. The teammates behind him immediately pointed their blaster guns behind the door and fired several shots quickly. The heads of the several Archon guards who were aiming their guns at the door were suddenly blown into pieces, splattering blood all over the room. The elite Legion soldier who was the first to enter the door was currently pressed by a guard wearing a defense force armor. He made a fist with his right hand and quickly punched it out, smashing the head of the guard wearing power armor and his helmet inwards on the spot, and bright red blood seeped out from the cracks. With the dull sound of footsteps, the captain of the elite team entered the safe house. The scanning function of the visor was turned on and scanned the only survivor in the safe house. "Consul Model, we are here to arrest you, please cooperate with our work." While the combat captain of the elite Legion said this, he waved his hand to the surrounding team members to step forward and secure the opponent. Archon Model did not resist, because the bodyguards lying around him told him that resistance was useless unless he could recruit a group of elite legionnaires. But this is simply impossible. Retired elite legionnaires who have either become peace officers or choose to spend their remaining years peacefully will not be bribed by him at all. It's even less likely to be on active duty. It's difficult to even contact them, let alone bribe them. Thinking of this, Model couldn't help but hate the laws of the righteous world, because it was the law that stipulated that the consul did not have the right to mobilize the defense army and elite legions. Otherwise, as a consul, how could he be caught so easily? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 945. Many archons were arrested by the Angels of Judgment and the Elite Legion, which caused an uproar within the world of justice. Under Binghua's instruction, this matter did not intend to stop there, because under the interrogation of several archangels of judgment, the captured archons confessed a lot of things. At one time, hundreds of executives from various departments who held important positions in various worlds were suspended and were reviewed by the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The lower-level officials involved were reviewed internally by the world itself. This made many consuls who had some thoughts due to the recent rebellion in the fringe world feel shuddered in their hearts and put away their thoughts that they shouldn't have. In fact, anyone with a discerning eye knows very well that it is simply unrealistic to start a rebellion within the world of justice, let alone the relatively independent worlds. Just say that the elite legions and defense forces stationed in various worlds are enough to give the rebels a headache, because these legions that have participated in tragic wars are not weaklings who can collapse at the first touch. Iron Boken was able to start a rebellion and successfully control the three worlds because these three worlds were not directly under the jurisdiction of the justice world, but colonial worlds without any garrison guards. Otherwise, how could the ragtag group of interstellar expedition teams under Iron Boken capture a world? That's why when the Justice World reacted and dispatched counter-rebellion troops, Iron Boken was defeated so quickly, and even had to venture into the Death Star territory in order to escape the pursuit of the elite legions. In the Death Star territory, a fleet composed of warships of various sizes and shapes is slowly sailing forward. This is the rebel fleet that hastily escaped from the Justice World. Boss, what should we do next, brothers? You always need to give your brothers an explanation. On the rebel flagship, the captains of various interstellar expedition teams spoke out one after another during the projection conference, and for a while the conference room was filled with complicated noises. Iron Boken looked gloomy and did not speak. To be honest, he didn't know what to do next. The Justice World definitely cannot go back, even if he has a large fleet under his command. Before encountering the counterinsurgency forces of the Justice World, Iron Boken and his men were confident in their own strength. Even if their rebels cannot go further and capture more territory, it is acceptable to separate several worlds into their own small world. But the reality is cruel. The world of justice only mobilized a small number of elite legions, defense forces, and expeditionary fleets from several directly governed worlds around it, and the rebels headed by Iron Boken realized the difference between a ragtag group and a regular army. The terrifying giant metal ship that could cover the starry sky wiped out their main rebel expedition ship group from the universe with just one round of firepower. The elite Marines, composed of elite soldiers drawn from various expedition teams, were also massacred by the elite legions without even organizing a decent resistance. After fully realizing the gap between the two sides, Einboken immediately took his cronies and all the rebels who could evacuate, and ran away with oil on his feet. Because of the need to eliminate the remaining enemies within the rebel world, the counter-rebellion forces only sent out a portion of their elite legions to pursue them. Facing the elite legions that were chasing after him, Einboken was wary but not afraid. To defeat these powerful elite warriors, he just had to sacrifice more of his men's lives. After all, they also have blast guns and ion-penetrating bombs that can kill these superhuman warriors. But as Ran led the main force of the Judgment Angels to the rebel world, the Judgment Angels also participated in the mission of chasing the rebels. Ironboken gradually discovered that the Judgment Angels and the elite legionnaires were not in the same dimension at all. The two were like the difference between supermen and gods. Because their fleet only encountered one Judgment Angel and damaged nearly 10 battleships. In the end, they relied on intensive firepower to force the opponent back. In the end, Einboken ordered the fleet to make an emergency jump, and then got rid of the Judgment Angel. According to intelligence, the number of Judgment Angels in the Just World exceeds 10,000. This is a number that makes Einboken despair. Therefore, no matter what happens next, Ironboken has given up the idea of returning to the world of justice. Now it is precisely because of this that quarrels broke out among the various star expedition teams in the team. Ironboken's reputation has also declined due to recent frequent failures. Some people in the team are already thinking about his position as the leader of the rebels. While Einboken was busy fighting with the captains under his command, an operator on the bridge of the rebel flagship said doubtfully to his companions on the side, "Do you feel something is wrong? This space is so empty. Not long ago, I felt like I was being targeted by something. Brother, I think you were frightened by the Judgment Angel. We are in the bridge now. Who would be staring at us here?" The companion next to the operator replied nonchalantly, "I hope it's my imagination. I think I need to take a good rest for a while and stare at the screen all day. Maybe I'm hallucinating." The operator grumbled, stretched, and rubbed his dry eyes. Suddenly, dozens of unknown energy reflection sources suddenly appeared on the shipboard detection system that had no response. Seeing this, the operator's consciousness, which was still a little sleepy, immediately woke up and his expression changed drastically. Ironboken, who was having a meeting with his captain to discuss future issues, also heard the sudden siren. The next moment an emergency message popped up. "Boss, it's bad, we are surrounded by chaotic creatures." In the originally silent and empty space surrounding the rebel fleet, the space began to become blurry, as if something was moving. Soon the various expedition ships of the rebel fleet discovered the culprit causing the blurred space, which turned out to be the legendary Chaos Beast. The opponent actually hid and slept in this space in groups, and their rebel fleet rushed here, awakening these chaotic beasts. For a moment, the rebel fleet fled in panic, without forming a decent defense line at all. The Chaos Beasts began to move and began to enjoy the snacks brought to their mouths. On the flagship of a biological fleet behind the Chaos Behemoth, a Chaos Lord woke up from his slumber. Through the biological force field induction, he discovered the rebel fleet being preyed upon by his behemoth. This Chaos Lord had dealt with the world of justice and easily recognized the composition of the rebels. After thinking for a while, he stopped the Chaos Behemoth from preying on the rebel fleet through mental force field induction. Instead, small chaotic bodies were dispatched and began to infect and corrode the surrounded rebel fleet. The reason for this was that the Chaos Lord had a very special idea and plan to experiment. Because past experience tells him that it is not a wise decision to conflict with the righteous world head-on. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 946. Queen, we have lost track of the rebels, and they have entered the Death Star field near the Chaos Star field. I was afraid of running into the Chaos Army, so I didn't let our soldiers pursue them rashly. Among the thrones in the world of gods, Binghua was listening to Rand's report, which contained the latest news about a group of rebels in Iron Boken. Forget it, if they don't catch up, they won't be able to achieve anything with their strength anyway. If there is no problem, just come back. The tribunal still needs you, the Archangel, to rule. You have a very heavy task next. This rebellion in the Edge world has exposed many problems in the world of justice. Binghua said a little tiredly. From Corenthal's confession, it can be seen that there are many consuls who think the same as him. But Binghua was reluctant to touch them until there was proof. It was impossible to punish the other party just because their thoughts were different from the concept of a just world. However, although Binghua feels a little tired, she is not too worried about the stability of the justice world being destroyed, because she controls the most powerful violent organization army in the justice world. As long as the central throne world of the world of justice maintains absolute military superiority, it is useless to let the archons in charge of each world play tricks on their own. In the world of God's throne, all it takes is an arrest order to make the hard-working plans of those ill-intentioned governors come to naught in an instant. With the passage of time, the influence of the rebellion in Fringe World has been basically eliminated a few months later, and the official world of justice also released an investigation report on the rebellion. By carefully analyzing the whole story of the rebellion, residents of all worlds in the world of justice can understand why this rebellion started. Iron Birkin was also dubbed by the residents of the just world as the most heinous criminal in history. Seeing that the internal work of reviewing the world of justice was going smoothly, Binghua stopped paying attention to this matter and continued to study the rapid catalytic technology of supernovae. In order to prevent accidents, Binghua even stayed away from the star field where the justice world was located, because if this research went out of control, it would affect more than just one planetary system. Just as Binghua was preparing to completely destroy the Chaos Star territory, in the World Star territory on the edge of the Justice world, a very embarrassed-looking fleet bypassed the Fortress World defense line in the Death Star territory and gradually approached a man named Chell. Colonizing the world on the edge. Justice World, Iron Birkin, am back. Iron Boken wore a piece of power armor with several damages on the surface, and black veins spread from his neck to his eye sockets like tattoos, making his face look extremely ferocious. And when this tattered fleet arrived at the outer warning circle of Chell World, it received a warning message from Chell Colonial World, asking them to show proof of ownership of themselves and the warships. Iron Boken didn't care about this and directly ordered the battleship to speed up. "Sir, there is an expedition fleet that seems to be quite damaged and is approaching our starport. We sent an inquiry message, but there was no response from the other party." At Chell's Colony World starport, a dispatcher in the dispatch hall reported to his superior. "Continue to contact, the other party's communication equipment may have been damaged. In addition, contact the patrolling fleet and ask them to come over to see the situation, and prevent them from continuing to approach the starport." The dispatch team leader thought for a moment and gave the order, just in case. He also specifically asked the dispatcher to contact the nearby patrol fleet. Iron Boken looked at the starport that was getting closer and closer in the bridge, stood up from his seat, and slowly raised the corners of his mouth. But at this moment, several defense ships of the same series approached and blocked the front, with emergency stop lights flashing on the hull. The meaning is obvious, that is, his fleet should stop immediately and undergo inspection, otherwise it will not be allowed to enter the starport. Any captain can recognize what this means. However, Iron Boken would not accept inspection. Not to mention that his wanted notices were still hanging in various worlds in the world of justice. Even the battleships under his command could not withstand close inspection at this moment. Seeing that he could not get away with it, Inboken did not intend to hide anymore. His spirit connected with the existence outside the ship and signaled that they could start eating. The next moment, Chel's colonial world patrol fleet discovered that the broken fleet that it had stopped had undergone a change. As the space blurred, the beings lying on those battleships took off their disguises. They were beasts of chaos with ferocious and twisted looks. The landing ports of individual ships opened directly in the vacuum of space, and dense flying chaos monsters poured out from them. Seeing this, even the stupid people reacted, and the starport dispatcher, who was always paying attention here, suddenly shouted at the top of his lungs from his seat. Chaos creatures! Chaos creatures invaded! For a moment, everyone in the starport dispatching hall was attracted, and panic immediately began to spread. Don't panic. Everyone calm down. Immediately notify the world of Chel and activate the world's space-time shield system. Seal the exit of the starport, stop releasing ships, and have the Defense Department prepare to block the approaching Chaos Army. The chief dispatcher had seen some of the world, suppressed a trace of panic in his heart, tried his best to calm down the dispatchers in the hall through the communication, and then calmly issued instructions one by one. In the short time it took for the starport in the orbit of Chel's world to close its exit and activate its defensive weapons, the small fleet that intercepted Iron Birkin had been torn into pieces by the Chaos Beasts. The first wave of chaotic creatures composed of small flying chaotic bodies also arrived near the starport at this moment. Ignoring the incoming artillery fire, they just rushed towards the interior of the starport. However, under the defense of the space-time shield, the starport finally did not fall directly. However, the military officer responsible for the defense looked at the group of chaotic beasts that were gradually approaching, and his face was extremely ugly. Because the Chaos Behemoth is not a simple thing, it is a terrifying monster that can tear apart the shield of a space battleship and fight hand-to-hand with the Apocalypse Mecha. In the Noka world, the Consul Bureau, after the Consul Morkaro finished handling the government affairs, he was sitting leisurely in his seat, watching entertainment programs, drinking tea, and fishing. Suddenly, an urgent communication request from his subordinate executive officer popped up. Morkaro looked a little unhappy when he saw this, but he still answered the call. Lord Morkaro, an urgent message for help has been sent from the colonial world of Chel. They have been invaded by the Chaos Army. The situation is extremely critical and they request our immediate support. Morkaro suddenly felt that the tea in his mouth was no longer fragrant, and he stood up from his seat. I understand. You are going to notify the elite army, the defense army, and the expedition fleet to prepare for support. I will immediately apply for authorization from the throne world. After speaking, Morkaro hung up the communication, and without any delay contacted the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Military Affairs of the Divine Throne World to apply for wartime control authorization. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 947. Wartime Command Authority is a very special authority that can only be activated when a world encounters a major crisis. Normally, the governor of a world does not have the authority to command the elite legions and defense legions. He only has the security forces at his command. But after all, the throne world is too far away from some worlds to conduct effective wartime command in a timely manner. Therefore, in order to exert the strength of a world, there is a wartime command authorization. With this authorization, the power of a world's governor can be regarded as the last piece of the puzzle, and it can fully mobilize the resources and military of the entire world. However, this authorization is not so easy to obtain, otherwise some consuls would not have to go to great lengths to incite public opinion and plan to strengthen the transformation technology. They only need to collude with each other and rebel together to plunge the righteous world into turmoil. It is this wartime command authority that allows the consul to have little control over the garrisoned legions and cannot easily mobilize these powerful warriors. Morkaro's application was not rejected, because the news that the Chell colonial world was invaded by the Chaos Army has been confirmed. In order to allow the worlds around Chell to send reinforcements in time, the Ministry of Military Affairs and the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Divine World readily granted this authorization. Morkaro also went from an ordinary consul to a world lord in just 10 minutes, with all rights vested in him. But Morkaro was not happy at all, because he was about to face the Chaos Virus, the sworn enemy of the world of justice for thousands of years. In the past, this thing was extremely far away from the governors who were sitting behind the scenes, and would be wiped out before they could enter the world of justice. Now Morkaro is feeling uneasy, but since he has no military skills, he can only hand over the task of supporting the world of Chell to the commander of the elite legion. Just as the worlds closest to Chell's colonial world were gathering support troops, the starport of Chell's world had fallen, and even the space-time shield system had been torn out. It's not that the defenders of Chell's world are weak, but that everything happened too fast. As a former interstellar expedition captain, Iron Birkin has an incomparable understanding of the defense model of colonial worlds. So they approached Chell's world in disguise, and then suddenly attacked. Before Chell's world's world-class space-time shield was fully deployed, a chaotic beast rushed in. Subsequently, centered on this opening, the world-class space-time shield generator was destroyed one after another until it finally lost its defensive capabilities. Kicking over a soldier wearing power armor, Iron Boken slashed down with a sword filled with energy arcs in his hand. Then Boken looked around, his pupils reflected the burning sea of fire, and he felt comfortable hearing the screams of fear and the excited roars of the chaotic creatures in his ears. At this time, one of his subordinates ran over and said, "Lord Leader, we have established the Chaos Nest, and we will soon have a large number of companions." Iron Boken's subordinate's face has been partially alienated, and his body has been integrated with the power armor, but he did not feel any discomfort. "Well done, complete the transformation as soon as possible, and then we will leave here and go to the next colonial world." Although Iron Boken enjoyed the pleasure of killing lives, his reason told him that staying here for a long time was not a good thing. Moreover, the remaining memories also told Boken that the world of justice would soon react and send reinforcements to encircle and suppress him. Therefore, Boken planned to take a shot and change the place, leaving a messy colonial world for the reinforcements of the righteous world to feel distressed. When the reinforcements from the world of Noka arrived at the world of Chell, they were greeted by a world in chaos. The starport had fallen and most of the entire colonial star had been infected by the spreading chaos virus. A large number of colonial star residents turned into blood-eating monsters and attacked the surviving residents crazily, causing survivors to be killed every moment in the world of Chell. Seeing this, the reinforcement commander quickly ordered the Elite Corps and Defense Corps to land on the surface, establish a safe zone, and then rescue the surviving personnel in the infected area. As for the disappeared Army of Chaos, the Army of Noka World did not pursue or search for it because there was still the mess of Chell World to deal with. The only thing they can do is to send warning messages to the surrounding world, so that each world can strengthen its vigilance. After a period of time, several colonial worlds encountered raids by the Chaos Army. Often before the reinforcements from the Justice World arrived, the Chaos Army had already escaped into the deep space of the universe, leaving only colonial worlds that were destroyed and seriously infected by the Chaos virus. When the Chaos Army under Iron Boken infected the world, it acquired a large amount of flesh and blood energy, and its strength became stronger and stronger. And these few actions also allowed Boken to figure out the reality of the star field on the edge of the Justice World. The Justice World did not have enough troops to encircle and hunt them. Therefore, Boken became more and more bold, and even set his sights on densely populated worlds under direct jurisdiction where legions were stationed. But after a tentative attack, Boken had to temporarily give up this idea, because the directly governed world has extremely sound emergency regulations and more powerful defense facilities. It is definitely a tough nut, and it will take a long time to break it down. What he lacks most now is time. He does not want to run into the troops of the justice world that are encircling him. Because fighting would not be of any benefit to Iron Birkin's plan to expand his Chaos Army, and on the contrary, the strength of the troops would be reduced as a result. Faced with this threat that could not be solved for a while, the governors of various worlds felt like they were in a chokehold, fearing that the star would be destroyed and everyone would die that day. This matter was soon reported to the God's throne world. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Military Affairs immediately began to discuss countermeasures on this matter, and finally decided to dispatch some soldiers of the Second Angel Legion to cut through the mess quickly and quickly deal with this wandering army of chaos. However, mobilizing the Angel Legion requires the goddess's approval. As Binghua's assistant officer, Jingnan naturally received the news, but it is difficult for the goddess to make decisions without Jingnan. Ran, who controls the Judgment Angels, is in two systems with the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Military Affairs. In the end, it was the Angel Legion commander Elan who came forward the next day to take over the task and lead an Angel War group to the Edge World starfield. While the Justice World was responding, the Chaos Lords blocked by the fortress defense line at the other end of the starfield could no longer sit still and began to harass the defense line frequently. As for the Chaos Lord who infected Iron Boken as his subordinate, he was extremely proud of his decision, because he was the first Chaos Lord to open a gap in the Justice World's defense line in this period of time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 948. Outside the world of justice, in the nameless planet system, Binghua listened to Jingnan's report and nodded slightly from time to time. Okay, I understand. With Elan going, the Chaos Army won't be able to make any waves. Jingnan, please help me keep an eye on the world of justice in the recent period. If anything happens, please contact me as soon as possible. Jingnan on the other side of the communication nodded slightly and asked. Queen, when will you come back? Without you here, I feel that the world of God's throne is so deserted. Don't worry, it won't be long. When I get rid of the chaos virus, I'll call my sisters and we'll go back to the known universe to stay for a while and relax. After hanging up the communication, Binghua closed his eyes and threw all the thoughts in his mind to the back of his mind. He looked again at the star in front of him that had expanded several times and could explode at any time. This was the star she was studying during this period. She used the supernova catalysis technology of the Sun to transform it from a normal star to what it is today. But stars capable of going supernova are not something that can be found everywhere, and stars must be massive enough to succeed. Ice blooms have failed several times before. Several stars have evolved into neutron stars and white dwarfs due to insufficient energy in the middle of their evolution. Only the current star with a relatively large mass did not become exhausted in the middle of its evolution, and its energy is still huge and abnormal, although a large amount of matter will collapse towards the core every moment. But it is obvious that the gravity of the star's core can no longer restrain the huge energy on the surface. At the same time, the two interact with each other, and the gravity of the star's core has shown signs of collapse. The stars at this time were extremely beautiful in Binghua's eyes, constantly emitting light that could illuminate the entire star field, alternating between light and dark like breathing. Binghua observed the entire formation of superplanets. I can't say that his understanding of supernovae exceeded that of Liang, but it also reached a level that others could not imagine. After all, few people dare to stand next to the supernova that is about to explode and conduct research. Binghua is an exception because she knows that even if the supernova explodes, she will not die. It just takes some time for aggregation, which is nothing to her. Being able to experience the explosion of a supernova is a great inspiration for her research. Of course, Binghua had already built a small jumping gate in advance, so of course she would still run if she could. As the material inside the star continues to collapse inwards, the external energy loses its carrier and cannot be released, thus disturbing the gravity at the core. Suddenly, the core of the star, which had been compressed for a long time, lost the restraint of gravity and began to expand rapidly, and the surrounding matter was constantly being pulled over. Binghua's eyes widened and she carefully observed the supernova explosion through her fully opened eyes of insight. The final dazzling light directly flooded the area where she was. A gorgeous aurora appeared in the universe, and countless planetary systems were swallowed up by it. It was like a flower blooming in the universe. After an unknown period of time, Binghua regained consciousness, but the interesting thing was that she could not feel her own body, but she could sense an extremely vast starry sky. Binghua can freely let his consciousness travel in the starry sky, as if he is integrated with the starry sky. Binghua began to use this perspective to observe the starry sky that he could sense, the fusion inside the star, the trajectory of the planets, and the pulse waves swept by the neutron star. Binghua even observed several civilizations. She watched them multiply and conquer each other, and finally formed a whole body and stepped into the starry sky, preparing to explore this vast universe. After some time, Binghua could gradually feel his body. After thinking for a moment, Binghua understood what was going on. The power of the supernova explosion was so great that it swept the sacred atoms that made up her body into this large area of starry sky. The scattered sacred atoms absorbed enough energy and then connected with each other, reconstructing her consciousness together. And it is precisely because the sacred atoms that make up her body are scattered everywhere that she can see everything in the starry sky from that perspective. But now that the sacred atoms have moved, the distance between them is gradually shrinking, and the observable range of Binghua has also begun to shrink simultaneously. Until one day, Binghua completely lost that perspective, and at the same time she opened her eyes again. She was the only one in the empty universe, and soon Binghua reconnected with the Sky Sword system, Seminary. Almost as soon as Binghua came online, a communication request popped up. After discovering that it was Jingnan, Binghua immediately connected, and a projection light screen immediately appeared in front. "Queen, I finally contacted you." Jingnan's voice was extremely surprised, and tears even oozed from the corners of his eyes. "What's wrong, Jingnan? Why are you crying?" Binghua was at a loss and didn't know what was going on with Jingnan. "Queen, do you know how worried we were about your safety these years when you lost contact? Ran and I have been looking for you for a long time at the place where you lost contact, but we found nothing except the nebula dust after the supernova explosion. If it weren't for Tianjian saying that, Queen, you would still be alive. We all thought that, Queen, you died in the supernova explosion." Vinyan Binghua also felt that she was too hasty and did not explain it to them in advance. However, Binghua also discovered some shortcomings of the sacred body. If the sacred atoms are scattered too far away, it will take a long time to reunite. However, Binghua is not without gain from experiencing the explosion of a supernova at close range. Relying on powerful computing power, Binghua has reconstructed the evolution and explosion model of supernovae in the years since it was blown to pieces. In other words, Binghua has a template that can be used as a reference, which will save a lot of things when catalyzing supernovae in the future. What's left is to construct and write some algorithms to drive supernovae just like we did before to capture stars, so that when catalyzing supernovae, we don't have to keep focusing on the operation of the algorithm. And to be honest, Binghua was also curious about the unique perspective after being blown into sacred atoms. She planned to start a project and also planned to report this issue to He-11. When Binghua returned to the world of God's throne through the folding gate and the gate of time and space, he realized that it took hundreds of years for his sacred body to assemble. If Binghua hadn't often stayed in the stellar ring to do research and didn't show up often, there would probably have been some turmoil in the world of justice. After all, Binghua is a flag of the justice world. With her presence, all the worlds in the justice world, including the original world, can be well united. If Binghua is gone, maybe after a period of development, the world of justice will gradually fall apart and each will go its own way. At that time, the edifice of the justice world may collapse like the former Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 949. After learning that Binghua was back, not only Ran, but also Ilan, who was leading the team to destroy the chaotic army that had infiltrated the world of justice, and Hizui, who was wandering in various worlds, made a rare return to the world of God's throne. Seeing that the angels were so worried about him, Binghua briefly summarized his experience during this period. Queen, you must never do such dangerous things again. If something unexpected happens to the sacred atom and it cannot be reunited, I can't even imagine what the righteous world would be like without you. Ranti's heart finally relaxed at this moment. Before, she thought that the queen was in danger, but it turned out that she was just conducting an observation experiment. But even so, Ran still didn't want her queen to take such a risk. Ailan, Hizui, Jingnan, Ming, 11 Luo and other angels all had similar attitudes. After staying in the world of justice for so long, the angels have developed some feelings for him, and they don't want to watch the vibrant world of justice decline and fall apart. Seeing this, Binghua could only promise not to do such dangerous things again in the future. Later, Jingnan also gave Binghua a brief introduction to the changes in the world of justice in the past 100 years. The main force of the Chaos virus was still blocked by the fortress defense line in the Death Star field. Only a small number of Chaos viruses bypassed the fortress defense line and penetrated in before the justice world could react. Among them, the rebels infected by the Chaos virus in Iron Beacon are the most difficult to deal with, because they do not conflict with the world of justice at all, they just wander around and cause destruction. In the past 100 years, the Second Emissary Legion led by Elan only encountered the opponent once and wiped out nearly half of its Chaos army. However, Anboken left his men behind and fled decisively. From that day on, Elan never encountered the opponent's main force again. Anboken deliberately dispersed his troops and ran away as soon as he found traces of the angels. This made Alan, who wanted to carry out a beheading operation, depressed for a long time, but the damage caused by Iron Birkin was decreasing year by year. Because the justice world has increased its investment in the defense of the Edge world, not only has a large number of defense corps been mobilized, but the Chaos Hunter Legion has also stationed in that star field to fight guerrillas with Iron Boken. Hearing this, Binghua couldn't help but shake her head slightly. The Chaos Army was not something to be afraid of until it reached a certain scale. Listening to Jingnan's narration, you can tell that the scale of the rebels led by Einboken is not large, otherwise it would not be just mentioned. But then Jingnan also explained that it was the Ministry of Military Affairs of the Divine Throne World that believed that Anboken was not worthy of too much effort, and that was why he was so free until now. Therefore, they just sent Chaos Hunters there, but who knew that the opponent was surprisingly tenacious. Recently, the Ministry of Military Affairs had planned to recruit expedition fleets from several worlds to launch a large-scale mopping-up operation to force the opponent out. After hearing this, Binghua was extremely dissatisfied with the procrastination of the Ministry of Military Affairs and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and decided to personally ask the ministers of the two departments what they were thinking. Since you have nothing to do, I'll leave. It happens that my hands are itchy recently. I'll just go and meet with the leader of the Iron Birkin rebels who has left Alan helpless. Hizui was the first to propose leaving, but the reason he gave made Ailan extremely dissatisfied. What makes me so helpless? Hizui, please think carefully before you speak. I'm just not good at catching mice. After saying that, Ailan also asked Binghua to resign and left. Queen, I have recently obtained exact information on the location of Iron Birkin. Since you are fine, I will go back and continue to eliminate this group of rebels. After getting Binghua's consent, Alan also left in a hurry. Seeing this, Ran smiled and joked. Alan is anxious, probably because she is afraid that Hizui will find An Boken first, and then she will not have the confidence to refute Hizui's words. A faint smile appeared on Binghua's face after hearing this. Have they been like this all these years since I've been gone? Almost. Now Alan and Hizui can get along, because Hizui has been deliberately irritating her. But this is pretty good. Alan has stopped saying depressing words in recent years. Ran said with a smile. It was actually quite interesting to see these two bickering over nothing. Binghua was relieved when she heard this. Frankly speaking, she could just fight and kill enemies, or even research weapons. But Binghua was really at a loss as to how to deal with Alan, otherwise he wouldn't have ignored it. After waiting for a while, Ran received a message from his subordinate Judgment Angel and left. Only Jingnan and Binghua were left between the thrones. Standing up from the throne, Binghua came to Jingnan and put her hand on her cheek, wiping away the almost undetectable tears for her. Staring at Jingnan's eyes that were red with excitement or joy, Binghua said softly. You are an old angel over 10,000 years old, why do you still cry when something happens? Don't worry, your queen's power is the best in the entire known universe, and no existence can harm me. Queen, I'm afraid that you will leave me alone in Merlot heaven again like you did before, and disappear without a trace, so I couldn't help but. As Jingnan spoke, the corners of his eyes seemed to be sparkling again, and Binghua quickly spoke out to comfort him. Oh! Why are you crying again? Didn't I promise that I would never abandon you again? After letting Binghua talk nice things about Jingnan, Jingnan's mood returned to stability. Seeing this, Binghua felt slightly relieved. At the same time, Binghua recalled that when Jingnan first became his assistant officer, besides being kind-hearted, he had a very strong character. But since the first line came down, Jingnan's character has gradually become weaker. However, Binghua also knew that Jingnan didn't like fighting, so after thinking about it, he gave up the idea of letting Jingnan go to the front line to train again. After Jingnan left, Binghua began to explore the sacred atoms that made up his body. During the years when he turned into sacred atoms, Binghua did not waste his time. Even apart from observing the starry sky, the only thing he can do is to ponder the sacred atoms. It can be said that except for He-11, the creator of the sacred atoms, no one knows it better than Binghua. And now that Binghua has regained his physical form and is connected to Tianjian and Samilo, as well as his own dark plane computer, it's time to experiment with whether his idea can succeed. As soon as he thought of it, Binghua's eyes glowed with silver, and he began to write a set of sacred language algorithms suitable for sacred atoms. It didn't take much time to complete, and then he wrote the set of algorithms into his left hand, which was made of sacred atoms as an experimental material. This time took a little longer, and it took several days to complete. During this period, Jingnan came several times, and when he saw that the queen was busy, he left quietly without disturbing her. At the same time, he also used his identity as Binghua's assistant to issue a notice not to disturb the goddess unless there was something important. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 950. After all the new algorithms were written into the sacred atoms in his hand, Binghua couldn't wait to start experimenting. As the ice flower drives the algorithm, the 5 fingers of her left hand gradually disintegrate from the fingertips into countless golden light spots, and the disintegration does not stop until the forearm. Looking at the fracture of his forearm that exuded a faint golden light, Binghua had to admit that his body had completely said goodbye to flesh and blood. Before being blown apart by a supernova, her body structure was very similar to that of ordinary Kamigawa life forms. Although they were fundamentally different, she had everything a normal organism should have. But it's different now. Her body is completely simulated by the aggregation of sacred atoms. Although it looks no different from before, all the inside of her body are tightly aggregated sacred atoms. And in order to maximize its combat capabilities, the holy atom simulated the skeleton and muscle shape of the third-generation divine body, and even optimized and enhanced it on this basis. This is the algorithm written by He-11 into the sacred atom in advance. No matter how many times the sacred body is destroyed, it will be reassembled based on this template. What Binghua is doing now is to add his own things to this template, and Binghua already has a lot of new ideas, and the collapse polymerization he is experimenting with is only the most basic application. After completing this initial attempt, Binghua contacted Hexi and told him his thoughts. Your idea is theoretically feasible, but to achieve the level you envision is not just a matter of a few algorithms. Hexi was not surprised by Binghua's whimsical ideas, because Binghua could always use some seemingly ordinary techniques in new ways. As the developer of the holy atom, He-11 certainly understands the power and broad prospects of this technology, but all she can think of and accomplish is the reaggregation after destruction. She had also thought about manipulating the aggregation and disintegration of sacred atoms as Binghua said, but it was a bit difficult to do it. What surprised He-11 was that Binghua achieved what she had envisioned in less than 200 years after upgrading her sacred body. As long as the algorithm can achieve it, I don't believe that I can't do it. I feel that the sacred body you are studying, Sister Hexi, is the real divine body. The past 3 generations and the second generation of divine bodies were like the front-end technology of the divine body. Binghua felt this, Hexi laughed and cursed, and then said, "By the way, let me tell you something. I have developed the second generation of the secondary biological engine, which has some more interesting functions. I need an angel to help me collect some battle data. You know, the known universe is full of people and Keisha and I have no intention of exposing our sub-biological engine technology. So I'm going to ask you to help me collect some combat data." Binghua readily agreed after hearing this, and Hexi then sent over the technical information of the second-generation sub-biological engine. Binghua browsed it casually and found that it was a bit difficult to make, but it could still be done relying on the Stellar Ring Laboratory. "Sister Hexi, if you give such important technical information to me directly, aren't you afraid that angel civilization will suffer a loss?" Binghua joked after reading it, and Hexi rolled his eyes when he heard this. "You are also a part of the angel civilization, and at our level, the angel civilization is there wherever we are." He-11 pointed at himself, then pulled a female angel with short hair from the side and introduced. "This is my new good seedling. It's much more obedient than that guy in Qingning. It's called Zhixin." After speaking, He-11 said to Zhixin, who was a little cautious, "This is your teacher and my good sister Binghua. If anyone dares to bully you in the future, tell her that she will beat them to pieces." Hearing this, Zhixin secretly glanced at Binghua in the projection and said hello. "Zhixin, it's a very nice name. Just like your teacher said, your teacher and I are very close sisters. From now on, if anyone dares to bully you outside, just call me by my name. I still have some reputation in the known universe." Binghua also smiled and said hello to Zhixin. After that, Binghua began to discuss with Hexi some future development directions of the sacred atom, and at the same time, he also told the other party about his special perspective when he transformed into the sacred atom. Known universe, Edge Star Field, Tiangong Fleet. This void martial arts is so useful. It's time to step on those annoying Tianding people. Huaye was wearing a military uniform, stroking the blade of the simple black longsword in his hand, looking past the weapon in his hand and falling on snow below. "I will accept the gift from that boy Carl. Please tell me your purpose. I don't believe that you will give me these void weapons for nothing. King Huaye, my god just hopes that you can unify the Edge Star Field as soon as possible and become the king here." At that time, my God will give you a gift that can control the entire angelic civilization. Snow wanted to correct Hua-Ye's disrespectful name for the Lord God of Styx, but in the end he held back and revealed the purpose of his visit. Don't worry, tell that kid Carl that it only takes me 100 or 200 years to defeat all the enemies here and become the absolute king here. Also, I am looking forward to the gift that you mentioned can control the angelic civilization. After Snow left, the arrogance and confidence on Hua-Ye's face faded, and he began to think about the intentions of that kid Carl. King, Styx has supported us so wholeheartedly, and he definitely wants us to be their pawns. Below Hua-Ye, Hao Sang, who was Hua-Ye's assistant officer, spoke out. Aren't you talking nonsense? Of course I know the purpose of that guy Carl. But I have to say that even though that kid Carl doesn't have all his hair, he is generous enough. But the more this happens, the more I have to be wary of him selling us out. But the highest priority now is to pacify the Tianding stars, and then there are the titans who claim to be gods. Hua-Ye stood up from the throne and said to Hao Sang. Tell the Tiangong warriors under my command that the next target is the new Tianding star. The king will not be stingy with rewards for those who are the first to step into the new heavenly cauldron star. Following the order from Hua-Ye, the Tiangong king, a vast fleet was formed by the Tiangong flagship, the new Shima Empire, and other beast body civilized servant armies, and headed towards the new Tianding star territory. As the war in the Fringe Star territory became more and more intense, the war in the Bok Nebula in the known universe also rekindled, and the Thane Empire began a new round of expansion. This time it is no longer a small fight, but a force to swallow up the world, crazily annexing the weak civilizations around it. In the Kamigawa Tiandeo galaxy, the Islanders and the Thunderblade stars somehow got the news that Reina, the new generation Lord God Emperor of Liang, was about to complete the final debugging. The two sides, who were already in a confrontation, suddenly restarted the war. This time, Island and the Thunderblade stars were very determined. They did not want to see Liang regaining his master god. The Liang civilization must be dismembered before the opponent's main god awakens, otherwise the two of them will never be able to make a difference in the Shenhe Tiandeo galaxy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 951. Merlot Heavenly Court did not choose to intervene in the wars ignited across the universe. It would be better to say that it was unable to intervene. Because most of these civilizations are relatively powerful god-making civilizations, the targets of war are not civilizations within the scope of the just order. The only point that can intervene is the Hayden civilization in the Pocket Nebula. As a strategic ally of Angel, Angel has an obligation to provide some assistance to its allies. The Hayden civilization was also very aware of current affairs and immediately expressed its intention to establish an alliance for common development and mutual help. It also expressed that it welcomed the civilizations in the Pocket Nebula to join the alliance. For a time, many civilizations chose to join the alliance to get the protection of the Hayden civilization and the Angel civilization behind it. The Thane civilization was extremely angry about this. Originally, because the Hayden civilization was backed by the Angels, they planned to wait until they integrated the forces of the Pork Nebula before dealing with this old opponent. Unexpectedly, these guys actually chose to take action first. However, the Thane civilization did not take the alliance established by the Hayden civilization seriously, and continued to attack and annex the weak civilizations around it. Seeing this, Hayden civilization couldn't bear it anymore and immediately expressed its intention to protect the safety of alliance members. To this end, it even dispatched its own fleet and super warrior army. The Thane civilization was true to its word, and also sent out its own legion of super warriors. The two sides went head-to-head in a head-to-head fight. Suddenly, The Pork Nebula was originally just a unilateral expansion war of the Thane Empire, but it immediately escalated into a mutual confrontation between two major god-making civilizations. The last god-making civilization in the Pocket Nebula wanted to remain neutral, but neither the Thane civilization nor the Hayden civilization would allow it to remain neutral. Faced with the olive branch offered by both parties at the same time, the Langzing people didn't know who to choose for a while, and planned to wait for a while to see the situation. In the Styx galaxy, at the new Death Song Academy, Carl is listening to Snow's latest report. My god, Huaya is about to unify the Fringe Star territory, and Island and Thunderblade are also pressing forward step by step against Liang. However, there are some situations encountered in the Bok Nebula. The Thane civilization hopes to get a batch of high-level god-killing weapons from us. Snow said he hesitated at the end. High-level god-killing weapons were not a big deal, and even Styx didn't have much in stock. And due to the application of void technology, Styx has the largest inventory of standard low-level void weapons. But the void weapon is not suitable to appear in the hands of the mainstream god-making civilization in the known universe now, otherwise it will not be sold at a high price in the future. The only batch of void weapons released was still in the hands of Huaya in the Edge Star field, but it was also because that place was remote enough that no civilization paid attention to it. Give them as much as they want, but they need to use resources in exchange. After Carl thought for a while, he planned to let go of the restrictions of the god-killing martial arts. To be honest, the god-killing martial arts was nothing in his eyes now. After the third-generation Void engine is completed and mass-produced, the power of the Void weapon will be comparable to that of the advanced god-killing weapon, and by then the Angel's equipment advantage will be gone. Without the most powerful force as a deterrent, a territory as large as the Angel civilization is just a piece of fat meat that can be slaughtered by anyone. When the time comes, everyone will want to take a bite. When Carl decided to support the Thane civilization, Merlot Heaven also received a request from the Hayden civilization. He also wanted to purchase a batch of flame-level weapons from the Angels to maintain the safety of himself and the Alliance. Queen Keisha, I think we need to support the Hayden civilization to fight against the atrocities of the Thane civilization. Yan bowed to Kesha and expressed her opinion. She was very fond of the Hayden civilization's initiative to protect the weak civilization. Of course, Yan is not a fool, and he also knows that Hayden civilization has its own little calculations. You are right, but we Angels cannot support them free of charge. This gap cannot be opened unless they are willing to become our affiliated civilization. You go tell them that we can produce flame-level standard weapons for them, but they need to exchange resources of equal value. Yan heard this and asked with some confusion, Queen Kesha, if this is the case, the Hayden civilization will not get enough weapons at all, and it will not be able to defeat the Thane civilization. Yan, you think too simply. The Hayden civilization and we are just strategic allies. We need them to keep an eye on the Pork Nebula to prevent Carl's forces from getting involved. But we are just allies. Since they are unwilling to join the Justice Order system, it is impossible for us Angels to expend too much effort to help them. Moreover, space wars have occurred frequently recently, and there seems to be some conspiracy behind this. Next, we need to focus on the Shenhe Tiandao galaxy. Liang's star-driven technology cannot spread. We must mediate when Liang's civilization falls into an absolute disadvantage. After speaking, Kesha rubbed her eyebrows with her fingertips. To be honest, she didn't want to get involved in the war in the Shenhe Tiandao galaxy. But the star drive technology mastered by Liang is too sensitive. Just one Liang will make many civilizations in the universe restless. It would be terrible if there were a few more. Angels can certainly prevent the stars near their star field from being detonated, but what about ordinary civilizations under the order of justice? Kesha discovered that sometimes Angels really have to participate in some things. Compared with the mellow heavenly court, which is troubled by the chores of the known universe, the situation of the justice world is much better, because although the enemies they need to face are powerful, at least they will not play any tricks. When Binghua was studying the sacred atoms, he also did not forget to prepare for the annihilation operation in the Chaos Star territory. If you want to completely destroy the Chaos Star territory, you must know the scope of the Chaos Star territory. The purification host Samilo has a relatively detailed record of this. Because the Chaos Star territory is the area divided by the Eternal Ascension, and there are destroyers stationed at the edge of the star territory. The destroyers who have sealed off the Chaos Star territory over the years have not allowed the Chaos Army to escape and are still performing their duties. But soon they will be liberated from their missions and gain their own freedom, because Binghua has decided to form an expeditionary force of the Eternal Ascenders and the World of Justice, and march towards the central area of the Chaos Star territory together. Then the ice bloom will find a large enough star in that area to catalyze a supernova. The supernova that will explode will destroy a large area of the starry sky and greatly reduce the size of the Chaos Army. The remaining Chaos Army will be cleared away bit by the mechanical armies of the World of Justice and the Eternal Ascended until the Chaos Star field is completely purified. In fact, over the years, Samilo has been producing autonomous combat robots in the area where the purification host is located. Compared with before, under Binghua's instruction, Samilo produced medium and large ground-heavy equipment, equipped with combat machines with extremely strong firepower, not humanoid mechanical soldiers. These heavily equipped machines will then cooperate with the defense legions of the World of Justice to annihilate the chaotic creatures on the surface of the planet. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 952. In the starfield on the edge of the World of Justice, the Noka world, Hizui arrived here before Ailan. The reason why she came here is entirely because the world of Noka is the closest and safest area to the area where the leader of the Chaos Rebels, Anboken, operates. And because of the continuous use of troops against the infiltrating Chaos Army in recent decades, many interstellar exploration groups have gathered here. They were hired by Archon Morkaro to collect useful intelligence in this star field, providing the Chaos Hunter Legion and the Second Angel Legion with the coordinates and intelligence of the Chaos Army. In contrast, in order to prevent his position from being found, Iron Birkin also dispersed the Chaos Army under his command and used the dispersed troops to disrupt the attention of the World of Justice. Anyway, the Chaos Army is not afraid of casualties. It only needs to find a place with certain life resources or a native world, and it can quickly restore its lost troops, or even save more. Although no world has been invaded by chaos in recent decades, some native worlds in this star field that were originally to be developed have completely suffered. Under the infection of the chaos virus, the vegetation withered and all living things were swallowed up. Even the organic matter in the earth, the chaos virus would not let go. Even if the Chaos Hunters and Defense Forces annihilate and purify the infected world of chaos, what they will take back will be an abandoned planet that is so devastated that it can no longer be developed as a suitable world. And in recent times, the defense of ordinary chaos monsters has increased a lot. I don't know if it is because of the long-term dealings with the World of Justice. According to research, some metal components are found in the carapace on the surface of chaotic organisms, which can effectively resist ion burning and energy erosion. A normal civilization would probably have a headache when encountering a chaotic creature that evolves so fast, but the Military Industrial Research Institute of the Justice World is not a vegetarian. As the chaos monsters become stronger, the power of the standard weapons of the World of Justice is also constantly increasing, thanks to the acquisition of the Eternal Purifiers database. The World of Justice has innovated the ammunition of blast guns, and a series of new ammunition with high lethality and high power have appeared. Such as annihilation warheads filled with a small amount of dark matter, high-temperature ion incendiary bombs, and thermal melt armor-piercing bombs, etc. There are even god-killing armor-piercing bombs that are banned in the world of Makra. Most of these ammunition are currently equipped with the Chaos Hunter army to test the lethality against chaos creatures. If they perform well, they will be installed on a large scale in the world of justice. Just when Hizui was about to go to the tactical planning department in charge of exterminating the Chaos Army in the world of Noka to obtain some intelligence, a communication reached her first. Dear Judgment Angel, we are the Noka World Tactical Planning Department, and we have received your application information to enter the Noka world. I would like to ask your dear Lord Judgment Angel, whether you are on a mission. If Lord Judgment Angel has no mission for the time being, can you cooperate with the Chaos Hunter team to complete the mission against chaotic creatures? The dispatcher from the Tactical Planning Department sounded very polite. Hizui asked, slightly surprised when he heard this. I received your dispatch information as soon as I got here. Is the war situation here so urgent? Facing Hizui's inquiry, the dispatcher explained. No, Your Majesty the Judgment Angel. Recently, because of the transfer of the Second Angel Legion, the number of battle angels to cooperate with the Chaos Hunter Legion in combating chaos creatures is seriously insufficient. We applied to Lord Elan for a battle angel, and she asked us to mobilize the Judgment Angels of our world nearby. Therefore, we noticed you as soon as you arrived in Noka world. Hizui nodded knowingly and did not refuse the task assigned by the Tactical Planning Department. Heiko, we plan to ask the Chaos Hunters about the situation during the mission. After all, they were experts in dealing with chaotic creatures. According to the location information, Heiko quickly arrived at a small shuttle assault ship parked at the military berth. Facing Heiko, who was wearing casual clothes and carrying a small bag of luggage, the two Chaos Hunter warriors nearly 3 meters tall and wearing black demigod armor standing at the landing port of the assault ship thought she was an ordinary person who had gone to the wrong place. Madam, the area ahead is where military ships dock. You may have come to the wrong place. A Chaos Hunter warrior holding a heavy blaster gun stopped Hichui in front of him and said in a deep voice. Hizui looked up at the Chaos Hunter warrior in front of him. His first impression was that he was tall. He looked like a little girl who had not yet grown up in front of him. I am the Judgment Angel assigned to you by the Tactical Planning Department. I should have come to the right place. Hichui said calmly. Hearing this, the Chaos Hunter warrior glanced at Hichui suspiciously, but still raised his hand to touch the side of the helmet and turned on the armor's scanning system. The next moment, Hichui's brief identity information popped up. Seeing this, the Chaos Warrior stood at attention, held his weapon in one hand and performed a military salute. Welcome, Lord Judgment Angel. Okay, take me aboard. I guess you are impatient to wait. Hichui waved his hand to indicate that there was no need to be so polite, and then passed the two soldiers and entered the assault ship. With the arrival of the dispatched Judgment Angel, this Chaos Hunter combat team no longer had any reason to stay in the starport. As the ship door closed, it flew to the exit of the starport under the control of the starport. Shuttle assault ship is a relatively common small warship among elite corps. It is often used for rapid assaults, landings, and many other tactical operations. Compared with large warships, it is faster and has the ability to make short-distance jumps. Therefore, during long-distance operations, it needs to cooperate with large warships capable of jumps. But there is no need to be so troublesome in your own territory. It is very suitable for rapid reconnaissance and targeted area clearing operations. The ship that Hizui boarded was performing a rapid reconnaissance and area clearing mission, otherwise it would not have dispatched an angel. Because during several large-scale wars, some commanders discovered that angels are the best scouts in the world of justice. When undertaking missions with unknown risks, if there is an angel in the team's survival rate can often be increased by several %. A few days later, the assault ship Heiko boarded finally arrived at its scheduled location. And the suffocated Heiko was finally able to leave the dark environment of the ship, which was filled with the atmosphere of steel and metal everywhere, and come to the vast universe. Phew, I can finally come out. I will never take your boat when I go back. Hizui vomited in the communication, and a tough male voice came from the other end of the communication. It seems that our noble Miss Angel has been holding back her nerves these past few days. Don't worry, Mr. Hakewi, you will be scouting for us outside for the next mission. After that our safety is entrusted. The last words spoken by the leader of the Chaos Hunter Company in the bridge this time were very solemn. Hizui showed a confident look on his face and promised. Don't worry, even if you are surrounded by the Chaos Army, I am confident that I can take you out safely.